DREAM Act, DACA, a timeline. Today's class is going to be about the DREAM Act and about DACA. We're going to review a timeline of the legislation and policy. DREAM Act means Development, Relief, and Education for Alien Minors Act. DACA means Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. To understand the context, it is necessary to know what triggers these two policies. In 1996, Congress passed the Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigrant Responsibility Act, IRA-IRA. IRA-IRA is a legislation that currently regulates most immigration issues in the United States. IRA-IRA is a very restrictive and punitive immigration legislation that set the basis for the criminalization of immigration in the United States. IRA-IRA included a provision, Title V, Section 505, that precluded undocumented students from accessing higher education. This is how the struggle towards the DREAM Act began. Undocumented youth began to organize to fight against this section of the immigration legislation, Section 505. For the first generation of dreamers, their initial goal was to have access to higher education and federal and state financial support. This struggle led dreamers to become political actors. Through their political activity, they have learned to act at the federal, state, and local levels. They have also learned to build alliances and be vocal about their needs. In fighting for their rights, they built alliances and were able to start to influence the legislative agenda and promote the DREAM Act. The DREAM Act has yet to be approved at the federal level, but it has passed at the state level in 19 states, including California, Texas, New York, among others. In 2012, President Obama announced the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, DACA. The main purpose of the executive order was to protect undocumented youth from deportation, meaning deferring the action of deportation, and provide them with a work permit. Without a doubt, DACA is the result of Dreamers' fight for the DREAM Act and their ally-building strategy. Dreamers created alliances within the Obama administration who helped push for DACA. It is interesting to notice that even though the DREAM Act is a legislation that has support from both Democrats and Republicans, it has not been approved at the federal level. The different forms the DREAM Act has taken are as follows. The first DREAM Act was in 2001. It was called the DREAM Act Bill S-1291. It was introduced in the 107th Congress by Senator Dick Durbin, a Democrat from Illinois, and by Orrin Hatch, a Republican from Utah. At the same time, at the lower house, Luis Gutierrez from Illinois presented H.R. 1582, which was also a DREAM Act. Although the initiative was discussed and debated, it was not approved. Different versions were introduced throughout the years. In 2006, SB 2611 was introduced. This was a comprehensive immigration reform which included DREAM Act. In 2007, another comprehensive immigration reform was introduced, SB 1348, which also included provisions for DREAM Act. In 2008, Durbin introduced an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act, SB 2919, which included the option for Dreamers to serve in the armed forces. This is the first time the DREAM Act is connected to a defense bill, and this element will remain in further DREAM Act versions. In 2010, the DREAM Act was reintroduced again by Durbin and was approved in the House, but it came up short in the Senate. It was very close to being approved. In 2012, it was the Obama administration, meaning the executive branch, that announced the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. This executive order had as a main goal to protect dreamers from deportation and provide work permit. This was life-changing for a whole generation of undocumented youth, the one that was within the age range that was included in the executive order. In 2013, there was a bipartisan, comprehensive immigration reform that was passed in the Senate, SB 744. This one included a DREAM Act, but the then Republican-led Congress refused to even have a discussion on the legislation that not only had provisions for Dreamers, but had provisions for every immigration issue. In 2017, DACA was canceled by Trump through another executive order, setting a deadline of March 5, 2018 as the end of the program. This decision was taken to courts and its cancellation was put on hold for those already protected by DACA. However, new applications were ended. Also, in 2017, Senators Durbin and Graham introduced yet another DREAM Act, a clean version, nothing else attached to it, which didn't go anywhere. In 2018, the Trump administration conditioned the continuation of DACA to approval of their budget, which included a change to the immigration regime. This was opposed even by Republicans. 2018 was an interesting year in terms of legislative proposals geared towards support of Dreamers or DACA recipients, when 4 competing proposals were voted in the Senate. 1, the McCain-Coons Act, the Secure and Succeed Act introduced by Grassley, the Immigration Security and Opportunity Act introduced by Rounds King Collins, and the Amendment 1967 introduced by Gardner and Bennett. The White House proposal, which was the one introduced by Senator Grassley, was a very restrictive initiative, including a change in the immigration preference system currently in place in the U.S. This proposal was the one with the least amount of votes, 39. The Round-Collins proposal was the one that received the most, 54 votes, but came up short the required 60 votes to pass. In our next videos, we will talk about DACA-specific data, the court cases, and Dreamer activism.